We are talking the creator, Gareth Edwards, a story very relevant right now. AI, artificial intelligence is all the talk. And in this story, we have US versus New Asia. The description that I had here was, as a future war between human race and artificial intelligence rages on, ex-Special Forces agent Joshua was recruited to hunt down the creator, the elusive architect of the advanced AI. The creator has developed a mysterious weapon that has the power to end the war of all mankind. As Joshua and his team of elite operatives venture into the enemy-occupied territory, they soon discover the world-ending weapon is actually an AI in the form of a young child. I think that's a pretty strong summary of what we saw there.
I think it's a very apt summary of the creator.
Yeah.
For people that don't know, Gareth Edwards, he directed his directorial debut was Monsters, a really small independent film that really blew up Cannes, and it's probably one of my favorite films by him.
Yeah,
I love it's a very grounded sci-fi film. The creator is grounded, but there's I just think it, in my personal opinion, I walked out of the creator thinking it was very derivative sci-fi. I honestly didn't like the script very much. I thought the dialogue was very cheesy.
Yes.
But the way this film looked really blew me away.
Gorgeous.
Shoot, who is the? I'm pulling up the cinematographer, Greg Fraser. He also did the Batman.
Yeah.
He worked with Gareth Edwards on this film, and it's absolutely stunning.
And Dune.
And Dune as well. Did you happen to see how much this movie cost?
I did, and that was something I wanted to bring up. It was about $80 million.
Blows my mind.
US.
Blows my mind.
Wow.
You have Avatar. You have Avatar. That's how much was that? 300, 400 million.
The entire U.S. economy.
Yeah. And Gareth Edwards is over here just recreating a whole recreating 2065 to make it look super futuristic. I love it.
So and one thing I agree with what you said. I didn't think the script was super tight, which was really disappointing. I thought my first reaction to this is I thought that there was a lot of good and interesting concepts in here that just weren't executed in a way that made me go whoa, but that I thought it would. It kind of fell into a lot of the 80s sort of cliche tropes, sort of the Red Scare, U.S. versus New Asia, which is
it's kind of racist.
That in itself,
kind of racist. The fact that Asian people are perceived in this movie as AI hybrids, and that they are willing to be they're okay with AI, which I not to speak for them, but I don't think that they like AI as much as much as we do. We all are right, skeptical of it. The fact that even Asian characters in the creator are unalived in this movie for really just plot moving the plot forward.
Oh my God.
It was absolutely disgusting.
There was some graphic. Yeah, there was some graphic sort of things that I was just Jesus, the U.S. government is ruthless, and they are. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, there is some sort of diplomacy that has to happen here, some sort of decorum, some sort of we're just here to get this weapon, not kill civilians kind of thing. It was just Oppenheimer, it was just out of control. Going back to what you were talking about with the budget and the visual effects. I mean, this is one of the best visual effects films I think we've gotten in some time. The way the robots looked, I love the hybrid look. I loved that some robots just existed. Some robots moved like humans. I like this sort of robots having this ideology or moral compass of sort of peacemakers. But I felt where it felt short, they didn't invite us into the world enough. And so I think if they established that these robots were maybe a bit more pacifist, a little less willing to fight, and it was more so that the government or the U.S. government was sort of projecting or sort of misreading a situation here, that could have been interesting. I think it could have been interesting if the U.S. government sort of realized, wait, this actually is not a threat, that we can live in harmony. The thing with me with sci-fi, and I love sci-fi, there has to be some sort of message, some sort of story, and I think that's where it really, really felt flat.
Yeah, I think it felt flat for sure. And there's moments like early on in the film, it's not necessarily a spoiler, but the John David Washington character, like he is introduced as like someone that doesn't like AI and not willing, like he just wants them eliminated. And there's a scene where he's like arresting a robot, and like the robot is like begging for its life. Like, do you remember that scene where he was like absolutely like in terror, and John David Washington is like, he basically looks at his partner and says like, don't give in, they're not real. His partner like right next to him just like, oh, that seems pretty real to me. I'm just like, I wanted more of those moments where it's like
definitely
because like I don't know about you, but if like a robot is like shows like emotion, then I'm gonna feel sorry for it a little bit.
Yeah, I think, and that kind of goes back to what I meant about like inviting us into the world. They should have, in that first act, there should have been a better job of showing that transition of when did humanity sort of start having empathy for these robots. And they tried to do it with that montage, but I felt like that's where they shouldn't have rushed. I did enjoy the montage, but I felt like I needed more, like you said, those moments to make me go, no, these robots, even though they are programmed, they have some sort of free will. They have some sort of decision making. They're that advanced, and that's what we were missing. Going back to the visual effects for a second here, Gareth Edwards actually studied visual effects in university, so I think that also is probably why he has such an attention to detail here. And I also heard that they kept the script pretty tight, which is a benefit and a disadvantage. Benefit because they shot it all, then they did post-production with the visuals, not a lot of like pre-production and visual modding and stuff what you see in Marvel, which is why it kind of like they get stuck or pigeonholed. But I think this movie kind of shows you don't need these like $300 million budgets to kind of achieve something that's visually phenomenal. Because that's what this was. It was visually phenomenal, and I really liked the sound design as well. It kind of took some of those Star Wars sound effects, but like made it seem a little bit more realistic, a little more authentic, and I really appreciate the sound
more
design.
Grounded for sure. Like especially, I feel like the strongest part. We won't talk too much about it because of spoilers, but I feel like some of the stronger emotional aspects were the third act. Yeah, everything that happened in the third act, and it like really? I got a lot of District 9 vibes. Like in that third act, I don't know, like white savior, like oh, it's like we understand now, don't hate us, and I'm just like, it.
No, I agree, and I thought too, like the third act for me, they really rushed at the end. Like it was like boom, 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 like the scenes were so fast, but within that, there were some moments I really did like. I loved sort of that like chemistry between Madeline Yuna, who plays Alfie, the young robot girl, and John David Washington. I thought they had extremely great chemistry. I thought Gemma Chan and John David Washington were super believable as a couple. I really liked them. I actually would have preferred to see more of their romance, more of their story. Ken Watanabe is always fantastic. I don't think he's ever missed. He's just so good, and like even in his short moments he was really fantastic.
The fact that this movie only cost $80 million, I don't think it's going to make its money back, but it doesn't have like that big of a hill to climb because of the low budget. So hopefully like Gareth Edwards will be able to revisit portions of this world, because I think that the world that he created is really something special. I just want to see him to be a little bit more focused.
I'm not always one to say, wow, we need to franchise everything, but this is one where I'm like, you know, this is an interesting sort of world that we didn't get to explore enough, that I would like to maybe play with a little bit more. But I'd be fine if this was just a standalone as well. But when you, like you said, when you have an $80 million budget, I want more movies like this. I prefer movies like this to it's so fascinating that they took a risk with the casting. It's extremely diverse. They took a risk with the visual effect. It wasn't super cost heavy, but it just felt safe. It felt like a very safe movie as far as some of the decisions that were made and sort of expectations, that I really was hoping that this movie wouldn't take such a safe route, especially considering Rogue One and some of these other films felt like they did take a little bit more of a risk and jump. So yeah, that's my take.
Which totally makes sense, because Gareth Edwards, he has a visual effects like background. It'd make, not saying that he's like a bad writer, but like he gets more of his emotional punches from showing, not telling. And I feel like this, like you just said, like when this movie does that, like it definitely shows instead of tells. But do you have any more final thoughts on the creator? Like, Should people see this?
Yeah, I think people should. I do think, like, this is going to be one of those movies that is hit or miss for some folks. I know you don't do ratings. For me, I gave it about like a 3 out of 5 stars, and that's good. It's like, it's still worth seeing. I think I want to see more films like this. Maybe I'm being a little harsh. It was a serviceable film. It was great. Like, there was some interesting moments. I do think the acting performances were awesome. The visual effects is alone, in my opinion, is worth seeing just once. So yeah, I would definitely say people should.
Yeah,
see this.
I think people should see this as well. I gave this a 3 out of 5 on Letterboxd. I really had, like, despite like my complaints for this movie, I really had a decent time because John David Washington is worth the price of admission. Probably not a full price. More like maybe like a midday price, like
a Tuesday $5 discount.
Tuesday $5 discount, or if you have Movie Pass, if anyone has that, just like use your free credit for that. And I don't think you're gonna have a bad time. See The Creator, check it out. Let us know in the comments down below what you thought of The Creator. Search The Circle Club and the Real Lovers Podcast and give us a rating, give us 5 stars, and even if we're doing bad, give us 5 stars and let us know how we can improve. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And as we always say at the Circle Club, we love you. Be kind in the comments, be friendly, and just be you.
Yep, just be you, and keep watching movies. Have a good one.